Thank you, Ricky, and good morning, everyone. All right, so I'm assuming that everyone brought a coat or a jacket because it literally is 19 degrees outside. And when I woke up this morning, I said, "Wow, like this is gonna be a feat to pull off." But we're here, and so congratulations to you all for making it here. So, Ricky, I want to thank you again for the invitation, and we're proud to sponsor this morning's event. It's truly an honor to be with you. For those of you all I do not know, my name is Al McRae, and I have the pleasure of serving as the president for Bank of America, where we have over 5,000 associates here in the metro area. And the official bank sponsor of FIFA, we're wildly excited about the opportunity to celebrate and talk about how this is going to be such a game-changing, tongue-in-cheek, game-changing event for our city and our region. On behalf of all of our associates, I want to first say that we are deeply committed to continue to make sure that this community thrives, and whether that's from an economic perspective or even just the overall health and wellness of our community. We're especially proud to partner with the council as a part of this three-series events of exploring and celebrating the power of football, not American football, Super Bowl's next week, but football in terms of the World Cup, a global movement that brings the unmatched economic opportunity and, let's be honest, a little bit of madness to the city, right? Because you all are wondering about parking and traffic and all the good stuff that comes with this. But Bank of America has been serving Atlanta for over 100 years. And throughout that century, we've had the privilege of supporting and witnessing some of the most monumental sports moments in our city's history, including the '96 Olympics, three Super Bowls, last summer's FIFA Club World Cup, and now this summer's World Cup, will be the largest World Cup in the history of this event. As the official sponsor, we also see a tremendous opportunity not just to support the passion of the billions of fans that will be watching, but we also like to highlight the power of sports and how it can unite communities and delivering lasting impacts on the communities that experience those, and Atlanta will be a major stage this summer for this tremendous event. Major events like this generate billions of dollars of economic opportunity, and that's what we're going to be discussing this morning, and how it creates jobs and brings visitors from every corner of the world. Here in this region alone, it's projected to generate over $1 billion in economic impact, which will support thousands of jobs and attract an estimated 300,000 visitors, nearly half of whom won't even be inside of the stadium, but yet and still will be patronizing the different businesses here, whether you're a restaurant owner, whether you're a retail shop, or a curated institution. And that's why today matters, because whether you're one of those business owners or you're just going to be a fan of the sport, there's going to be some type of opportunity for you, an opportunity to grow, to showcase Atlanta to the world, and to build relationships that last well after the event is over. So our commitment is twofold. First, we like to help local businesses and leaders to think strategically how to capitalize on this moment for sustainable growth, and not just the short-term spikes, but long-term benefits of the economy. And then we're deeply committed to the partnership. That includes working alongside organizations such as the World Affairs Council of Atlanta, the Metro Chamber, the Woodruff Arts Center, and many others to bring resources, thought leadership, and community-focused investments that help ensure Atlanta shines on this global stage. And lastly, and certainly not least, we're committed to celebrating this moment with all of you. We cannot wait to cheer together, to host the world together, and hopefully celebrate a few big match victories together. So thank you again for being here, for all of you all's leadership, for your partnership in the city of Atlanta, and we look forward to what this series will spark and what this World Cup will unlock for Atlanta. So let's look forward to a very terrific discussion this morning. Thank you.
I'd like to recognize some people in the room. Normally, I don't ask our board directors to stand, but I will invite you to stand when I say your name today, because you all represent the World Affairs Council's leadership, and we would not be here today without our incredible board of directors. If you have questions about the World Affairs Council, these are the folks that you can come and talk to, beginning with Asma Farid, who is with Edible Brands, and her colleagues. Thank you, Asma. Allison Padilla-Goodman, CEO of the Giving Kitchen. Thank you for being here, Allison. Richard Phillips, Dean of the Robinson College of Business at Georgia State University. And of course, John Teahan, Distinguished Professor of the Practice of Georgia Tech's Sam Nunn School of International Affairs and the School of Cybersecurity and Privacy. Thank you for being here, John. So the Woodruff Arts Center, of course, is a fitting venue for a conversation about the economic opportunities of the World Cup. I can only imagine how many people are going to come through here who aren't in the stadium, but they have lots of things that they want to explore while they're in Atlanta. So please join me in welcoming to the stage Woodruff President and CEO Hala Moddelmog.
Well, thanks, Rickey, and thanks for having me, and welcome to the Woodruff Arts Center. We're so excited that you're here. We are having a grand opening tomorrow of all this new stuff on the front, and we're finally opening our front door after, 30 years or so. So please come anytime. I think you all know we're the High Museum of Art, the Atlanta Symphony Orchestra, and the Alliance Theater. So thank you for being here. I also want to take a minute to thank Bank of America. They're a huge supporter of ours year in and year out, and we love that partnership. So thank you, Al, as well. Okay, I was asked to talk about a little bit about the benefit of art. So I've got a few numbers here. I'll do them really quickly, and then I want to tell you what our dreams are for FIFA. So economic impact of arts and culture in Georgia. And this comes from the Bureau of Economic Analysis, $31 billion in Georgia. And that's a 2023 number. So, and that's when we were still climbing out of COVID. You remember people still didn't really go anywhere. So 21.2 billion, we think that's probably understated. It's 3.75 of the GDP of Georgia. Also, it represents 164,000 jobs, and that's 3.24 of the workforce, and it's about 200 million in total tax revenue. So, for those who think the art is just a luxury or entertainment, or maybe not, giving as much back as some businesses do, please remind them of these numbers. Here at the Woodruff Arts Center, we serve about 1.4 million people a year, which we love. We've got year in and year out about $102 to $107 million in revenue. Of course, we're a nonprofit, so we have about $102 to $107 million in expenses. But that's what a nonprofit's supposed to do, and so far that's working out really well. We serve over 200,000 students as well, and this is important, I think, for this room to know. We definitely serve students beyond the city of Atlanta. We're in 100 of the 150 counties with teaching artists, etc. But we also serve 51,000 Title I schools right here in Atlanta that students, not schools, that would be a lot of schools for Atlanta, students who really need the enrichment of arts, because Georgia is 50 out of 50 states in arts funding. Okay, I'm going to say that again, 50 out of 50, and the number is 14 cents per capita. And I hate to tell you that your southern neighbors, and if you're a football fan, you don't like to get beat in the SEC for anything. And let me tell you, we are beat in the SEC in terms of arts funding. So it really is up to us and people like Bank of America and many of you in this crowd. Somia back there is one of our board members, et cetera, who really do try to help us keep the arts going. Okay, now for the fun stuff. So here's our deal with FIFA, and we've been doing this for about a year, meeting with countries. We're best friends with the Consular Corps right now. We're trying to meet with all of them. As a matter of fact, they're going to have an event in this room coming up, I think, in February. And then we're meeting with a lot of companies, and we understand the FIFA rules very well. But as Al just said, of course, only a handful of the people who come and are with us will have tickets to the event. But just think about this, if you will. If you are a company or a person and you've got your VIP people here, they're going to be able to go to the game. But the game, you can't spend more than probably maybe 4 hours unless the traffic is really bad and you can't get out of that zone. I hope that's not the case, because I know Atlanta's got this. But what are those VIPs going to do during the other times? So we have a phenomenal musical going on right during FIFA, June and July. It's called Basura, and that word in Spanish means trash. And the music is by Gloria Estefan and her daughter, and it's a Broadway-enhanced musical, so the producers from Broadway. It's, do you guys know the story about the children in Paraguay who live near a trash dump? And they made orchestra instruments out of plastic, and then they played all around the world. I think it's a Netflix documentary on it. So anyway, when your people are not in the stadium or they're not having a dinner, bring them to Basur. We'll treat them right. We'll make sure they have a pre-post. They can have privacy if they need it, etc. That's just one example. We have a brand new restaurant here called Elise. Chef Richard, if you know Lila, then you'll know Elise. It's the same person. And I think I'm doing too much of an advertisement. Is that okay? Okay. Okay. See, I sell. So anyway, we could have a special. We're doing a new special fancy dining room. So we've just got lots of stuff. There'll be a beautiful exhibit at the High. The symphony always has great symphonic music, but we'll also have lots of just popular bands during that time. So just think about us to entertain your guests while you're here. From a tourist perspective, I think that's still a little hard to understand. It really is. We've been working very closely with the ACVB. We hope, because we're on a MARTA stop and you can pop into the High at any time, but it's going to be interesting. So, just please share the word with that. One more thing. We have 5 stages on this campus, okay? And we have put into the portal to try to get licenses so that we can show some matches. And we're not necessarily showing the Atlanta matches. We might, but what we're showing are the matches that we know everybody in the world wants to see. And so our biggest stage holds 1,800 people. It's air conditioned. Think about a soccer match at 1 o'clock in the afternoon and you're standing outside a hot bar, or 3 o'clock, whatever time. And it's air conditioned. You'll come through a security system evolved. And so we think it might attract quite a kind of a different clientele. Maybe people aren't going to take their little children, down to the action, or maybe they'll take them to the action at some time, but they want to really sit in a private, safe space. And then we're counting on them drinking a lot of beer and eating a lot of chips and stuff to get our payoff for that. So that's our FIFA. So Katie, help it come true for us, okay? All right, thank you guys. I've got a meeting at 9, so I'm going to get out of here. Would love to hear Katie, because I know it's going to be fascinating, but thank you all.
You can get a sense of Hala's excitement, which I think reflects a lot of what we're all feeling. Who here has tickets to the World Cup? The lucky few. I have lost the first 2 lotteries. I'm in the final lottery with 500 million people. So I guess Yamin Lamal might come to Atlanta and leave without me ever seeing him play live, but life's tough. Thank you so much, Hala. We have a few housekeeping notes. This program is on the record. We have members of the media here. Thank you for being here. The statements made today are those of the speaker and not of the World Affairs Council of Atlanta. And now we turn to our program, which could not be timelier. In just a few short months, the world's eyes will begin to turn toward 2026. Atlanta is no stranger to global moments. We've hosted the world before, of course, the Olympics, but this is our generation's Olympics. So we have a question for ourselves. How do we turn global visibility into lasting local impact? This morning, we are here to explore how the World Cup can serve as a catalyst for durable economic opportunity well beyond the final whistle. What does this mean for infrastructure, for talent development, for small businesses, for global investment? How do we ensure that the benefits of this moment are shared broadly across all communities? We are incredibly fortunate to be joined by someone uniquely positioned to help us think through these questions. Katie Kirkpatrick has been at the forefront of shaping Atlanta's economic vision. Under her leadership, the Metro Atlanta Chamber has helped elevate Atlanta's standing as a global business hub while keeping a sharp focus on inclusive growth and long-term competitiveness. Katie understands both the scale of the opportunity before us and the work required to convert it into results. Katie, we are grateful for your leadership, for your partnership with civic organizations across the region, and for your willingness to join us this morning. Welcome to the stage, Katie Kirkpatrick, President and CEO of the Metro Atlanta Chamber. And I will invite the media folks to take this podium away so that you'll be able to see us. Thank you. Welcome, Katie. Here, why don't you be on this side?
Great. I have my hot tea.
Testing, testing, microphones on. Testing, testing, 1 and 2. Testing. Okay, here we go.
Good morning. Okay, there I am.
Good morning, good morning.
Good morning. Let's let them. Now I have a clear view.
Ah, thank you so much, team. So, we all know that the World Cup is coming, but none of us were in the room, or few of us were in the room, probably for years now, planning on getting us to this moment. So will you pull back the curtain and give us an inside scoop? How did Atlanta win the World Cup?
It's a fascinating question, and the history will be written like it was for the Olympics. First, I want to apologize. I have a very bad cold. So if you hear that, it's not for lack of enthusiasm about this event. You really have to go back when Arthur Blank dreamed of a new stadium. And the reason why he was looking for a new stadium was because he had visions of hosting the World Cup. Literally, Mercedes-Benz Stadium was designed to host World Cup. And granted, they host concerts and they host football games, etc. But it really was this vision of Atlanta having world-class soccer, having a world-class soccer team, and hosting those events. You really have to start with the construction and design of Mercedes-Benz Stadium, which I will argue to you is the best sporting venue in the world. So that leads to one of the reasons why when we were preparing to bid as part of the North America team, you have to remember it wasn't just Atlanta. This was 3 countries and multiple cities working on a bid document to go to FIFA. This is also the first time that FIFA has done an event like this. It's usually in one country, working with one governmental organization, and this is quite complex. So when they were looking at cities and countries and thinking about the bid process, they wanted to look for a place that knew how to do big well, which Atlanta does, that had the infrastructure, a stadium, and that it had the climate to support it. Climate meaning culture, support by government, all levels, etc. So you add that in, and you also need to factor in the world's busiest and most efficient airport. I don't care what Chicago says. Chicago loves to do it based off touchdowns and, the takeoffs and landings, which, we have 7 million people, 120 million people. I forget they go through our airport, so we will claim it. But the connectivity to the entire world from our airport also makes it very important for them to select Atlanta. So not only can you get to 80% of the United States within 2 hours on a direct flight from Atlanta, we are also an international hub. So pretty much all of the world can get to Atlanta. So that made a big difference. We are actually one of the few major cities that has a connection via transit from the airport to our sports campus. A lot of people don't know that. If you think about all the major cities, think about where New York is hosting theirs. You can't get there via transit. Most of these cities you cannot. And so within 17 minutes, you can move from the airport to downtown to the sports campus and be there. And that, I think, also is a selling point. And by the way, these are also economic development selling points, right? And then the last piece, I think, is the welcoming culture that we have here. And quite honestly, the bipartisan support between the state and the city on supporting events like this. It was lockstep with the governors before Kemp, and now with Kemp and Mayor Dickens. They work very well together on these types of events. And so that makes it easier for FIFA as this large international organization to select Atlanta. And then my last point is, think about it, 48 teams. I really should know the number of matches, but it's several hundred matches. And they pick Atlanta to put 8 and the semifinal. And let me tell you, we would have had the final if we could have found 4,000 more seats in our stadium. They have a requirement that your stadium has to host 80,000 people. And so we were in the running, but just couldn't find those extra seats. But Atlanta is a great base to, one, East Coast. You can broadcast. It's a good time zone. They wanted that. And if you look at the map of the cities that are hosting World Cup, you'll notice they're mainly coastal cities. There's very few in the middle. And that's largely because they're thinking about the 5.2 billion people that will watch the games. As you mentioned, over 500 million have put in for tickets. And we're going to see the greatest number of countries participate. And so it's an incredibly instructive opportunity for us. And it was collaborative in nature, but it began with the design and the architecture of MBS.
Arthur just didn't have enough vision to put 80,000 seats.
No.
And if we think about it, that was less than 10 years ago. Mercedes-Benz Stadium opened in 2017.
And we began the bid, I believe, in 2018. I mean, like, that's how long we've been working on this. And so to the team, our host committee, they're going to be ready for August 1 to get here because of the work that is ongoing and the years of planning. And one last little plug, that same team is actually on the clock for hosting Super Bowl. So we're already planning and working on that. So dual operation at the moment.
So as I mentioned in my opening remarks, this is our generation's. Did my mic go out? So how does hosting the 2026 FIFA World Cup compare to prior mega events in terms of putting Atlanta on the global stage?
Well, again, let's go back in history and think about the 96 Olympics. What an audacious idea, right? That the business community and the civic community had in the late 80s to go after the Centennial Olympics and actually win. I mean, that was incredible. And for someone that grew up in Atlanta and remembers it's Atlanta and then everyone leaving school and going to a parade, and my parents wouldn't let me leave. That really was a mark of the next step in our evolution as an international city. And you take one step back from there in the 70s, when Maynard Jackson had the vision of taking our airport from a domestic hub to an international hub. Those were critical decisions elevating this region on a global stage. So coming out of the Olympics in 96, which of course we're the only host city that has ever done it and made a profit. Everybody else has been in the red. It really introduced Atlanta to the world from a broadcast perspective. And that's one of the reasons we do these large sporting events. You think about the kind of credibility and coverage that we're going to have, promotional capacity, when everybody's saying Atlanta, 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 Atlanta for 40 days. It's an incredible opportunity. But if you look at the growth post-1996, especially with our international companies locating here, it's been a double-digit growth every year for 30 years for the international community. And so I think that speaks volumes to what the 96 Olympics did for us. I will also say up until today, roughly 40% of the job creation and investment in the state of Georgia comes from foreign direct investment. A lot of people don't realize it's that large. So when we think about the next step and what can come post-World Cup, because that's how we think about it, is we were put on the global stage in 96. We're going to celebrate the 30-year anniversary during World Cup for the 96 Olympics. And now what we're doing is elevating ourselves and not only saying we're on the world stage, but we are the top. And we are a great place for not only business, but culture and community. And that's how we think about it. And we want to tell that story. And I appreciate Al's comments about Bank of America and as well as Hala, who was my predecessor at the Metro Atlanta Chamber. This is what we exist to do. Tell our story, make people excited, and hopefully from a tourism perspective. The estimates, as Hala said, it's a little bit all over the board, but we think it's anywhere from 300,000 to 800,000 people, unique visitors, coming through, and that's just going to depend largely on who base camps here. And I don't mean the football teams, I mean the individual, because most of them don't just come, the tourists for World Cup don't just come for 4 days for one match. Oftentimes they're here for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. And so we want them to home base here and use our airport and our transit system to reach the other matches and then come back here. So we have an opportunity to tell the story to the tourists as well, the visitors, about how we're a great place to come and visit and do business as well. So economic impact, I think someone said earlier, my chief economist is extremely conservative, and I fuss at him, but I appreciate the conservative nature. He says somewhere around 500 million. McKinsey, I believe, has done a study, as have others, that put us well over $1 billion in economic impact. So somewhere in between, I'll take it. I'll take it all day long, and then hopefully we will have some announcements in the years to come about additional investment coming into the region.
And we're going to talk about particularly opportunities for small businesses. But first I want to talk about infrastructure. I remember in the 80s and 90s getting ready for the Olympics. The highway was always under construction, just a decade of construction.
Well, we still are.
My very small child brain. Talk about the infrastructure improvements that are being prioritized.
Yeah, I think if we're going to compare 96 to where we are now, right? Think about 96. You had to build something like 30 venues, right, and get it ready, and we had 7 years to do that. The lovely thing about World Cup is we don't have to build a stadium. We don't have to build housing for athletes. I mean, so it's a very unique position in that the infrastructure improvements are actually going to last well beyond, because we're making improvements in downtown with $120 million worth of road improvements going into downtown. That's everything from paving to new crosswalks to new ramps for the handicap individuals, to striping, to beautification. Those types of things are going on right now. If you work in downtown, as I do, sometimes it's a little crazy because of the work that they're doing. But that one allows us to efficiently optimize the transportation networks in downtown. What's interesting is that we believe that most people will actually be on foot or using transit. And so car traffic may not look the way it did during the Olympics, which, by the way, there was no car traffic during the Olympics. We actually would love for traffic to still be here, because that means nobody left and they're here enjoying the festivities that are here. So please don't leave during World Cup. Stay, enjoy. This is not going to be one of those things where it shuts down the city, because by and large it's all in downtown. So infrastructure, roads, the airport is making substantive upgrades as well with their plane train, with making sure that they're optimizing the travel, communications, the signage in the airports to make sure that our visitors know where they're going. And then, of course, our ACVB, this is not what you may think about infrastructure, is really thinking about how do we talk to the communities that come here? How do we communicate the culture and the identity of not only Atlanta, but Metro Atlanta? And then the state of Georgia is also working on tourism as well. So there's quite a bit of investment going on that I love to say will last far beyond the World Cup. And one of the things that's really interesting to me is, and we may get into this further, is we are the epicenter of U.S. soccer. And so we can't forgo the investment that's going in down near Trillis Studios with the new U.S. soccer headquarters and the National Training Center, which is extraordinary, will open before the World Cup. That alone allows us to capitalize on that infrastructure investment as well. So it's a really exciting time, and I have to give credit where credit is due. Our public partners have stepped up in a very tangible way, both the state, our local governments. It's not just the city of Atlanta. Most of the counties in this region are providing security assets for the World Cup. So it's kind of an all-in. It's Mayor Dickens' group project mentality here. The state is giving dollars as well as security resources, and the federal government appropriated about $675 million for the cities in the U.S. to use in delivering, and that includes transit as well.
So moving to economic opportunities, let's talk about not only the benefits to local businesses, but also the specific sectors that are coming to you saying, we'd like to be a part of this.
Well, everyone wants to be a part of it. So we hope everyone is. I think this is uniquely where our small and medium-sized businesses can really have substantive impact on their businesses. Because at the end of the day, the large companies are going to be looking for, and it's not just large companies, it's anyone looking to host an event, or from the visitor side, right? So hospitality will see a big uptick. Retail, transportation, security, catering, balloon art. I mean, it's the whole gamut of what goes into hosting an event. And so I'm proud to say that we have partnered with Mayor Dickens with Showcase Atlanta, which Showcase Atlanta will, again, last far beyond World Cup, and it can be utilized for things like large conventions, Super Bowl, et cetera. But they are working to create a catalog and an inventory, along with ACVB, of small businesses in different sectors, so that it's a curated list all in one place that someone looking for the resources can go right there. And the City of Atlanta is working to train and educate these small businesses on how to prepare. For instance, you gotta order more toilet paper. I mean, it seems a little funny, but yet, you need to order more Coca-Cola products. Because if you're going to see an uptick in service, your ordering patterns may be different. What kind of insurance do you need to have in order to work with companies? So City of Atlanta is doing an incredible job educating the small businesses. We're proud to partner with them. But I can pretty much say that every sector within our city is going to be touched in a positive way. And we're proud of that, but what more is the legacy that it builds. Hopefully we're going to build some muscle with some of these small businesses to be able to do this again and again and again, and that will have lasting positive impact on our community.
I like that you mentioned catering. I had not thought we have to feed all these people.
Well, and most of the time, the restaurants will be full, but there's going to be more, 200, 300, 400 people events that people will be hosting, whether or not it's for a match or, as Hala said, to watch a non-Atlanta match day. I can guarantee you people are going to be flocking to places to watch the USA play, at least in the first round. Hopefully we make it out. And just soft reminder that the U.S. has 2 friendlies right here in Atlanta at the end of March against Belgium and Portugal, 2 of the top 12 teams in the world, which will allow us, one, to kind of have another trial run on what it looks like to host an event. Those are sold out, maximum capacity. And it also allows us to get a little bit of that USA pride coming toward us.
Please make it out of the World Cup, Team USA.
You mean out of the group stage? Group stage. They've got a decent path. Let's just hope injuries don't,
Long-time
impede us.
soccer fan here. So I'm just looking at the time, and we are going to go to audience Q&A, so please do have your questions ready. Let's talk about equitable access to contracts and opportunities. How do we make sure that businesses of all kinds can benefit?
Well, the upside of being in Atlanta is we have a very diverse set of businesses here. I believe we have the highest number of Black-owned and veteran-owned businesses, small businesses in the United States, concentrated right here. And so when I think about the opportunity for small business, I don't think we necessarily have to parse it apart, because we've already built a diverse business base here. And so the important part of this is getting engaged with organizations like Showcase Atlanta, making sure that you are positioning yourselves with the resources and the credibility and the ability to market yourself. That's going to be the most important part for minority businesses. But think about it. Atlanta Airport set the tone with Maynard Jackson when he said, we're going to have 37% of our work done by minority contractors. The rest of the world followed. And I think that's what makes Atlanta unique, is we've really poured a lot of resources and effort into making sure that companies can benefit. Now, let's be clear. There are going to be some that don't. I mean, it's just, there's only so much to go around, and we may hear that from time to time. So just realistically. But I do believe our small businesses are positioned very well here, and we have the pathways to make sure that they can get business from the event.
Would anybody like to ask a question while we have Katie this morning? Hand up
Love
there.
it. Big hand.
And please kindly introduce yourself.
Yeah,
So we,
my name's Michael Collins. I'm from Playfair ATL. We are an Atlanta-based coalition that's trying to ensure that the World Cup in 2026 leaves a positive legacy and protects workers and immigrants. And on the topic of immigration, I wanted to ask, you're talking about the positive reputation for Atlanta and potential benefits, but obviously one of the kind of elephants in the room is what's going on across the country with immigration and ICE. And, I was at the World Club Cup last year, and there was a heavy ICE presence, CBP,
Talking about COPA.
beyond what is usually at concerts, whether it's Beyonce or Taylor Swift or any of those major events. And I'm wondering, what is the business community, or specifically the Chamber, doing to communicate with the federal government? You mentioned conversations, appropriations funding. What are you doing to communicate with the federal government that we don't want this huge global event to turn into the kind of dystopian scenes that we're seeing in Minneapolis, especially when we have countries like Haiti, South Africa coming to play, coming to visit, that are not exactly the president's favorite countries? And so what is the business community doing to ensure that visitors and immigrants in the city are protected during the event?
I appreciate the question, because this is certainly top of mind for all of us after the tragic consequences that we have seen in Minneapolis. And so I have to full stop say there that is not who we are. And so from a business community perspective, it's very important for us to communicate not only with the government, but also with our employees, our stakeholders, our community partners, about the values that we hold. And I think you're seeing that in Minneapolis right now. I believe there is a coalition of businesses, 60 plus, that have issued a letter talking about the values that they opine to in Minneapolis, but also a call for calm and a pause in the conversation, and to get back to having constructive dialogue around immigration, what it looks like in the United States, and how we can be more positive in that aspect. We know that immigrants have driven our economy for 150 years, if not more. I mean, we're about to celebrate the 250th anniversary of our country during the World Cup. So I think it's really important for Atlanta to communicate not only to our federal partners who we are and what we stand for, but communicate to all of you as well, so that when people are making decisions to come to the U.S. and picking those cities by which to come and watch a World Cup game, to understand, one, that our priority is safety first, but two, also to be inclusive and welcoming, that we want an environment where people can be authentic to themselves, and we want to be authentic to Atlanta and have that experience translate back to those that come. Immigration remains a very divisive topic in this country, and that's going to continue to be a national dialogue. What we would call for is calm, decompressing, allowing for constructive conversation to move forward, and not have violence be the leading opportunity that we're seeing right now. But make no bones about it, the loss of life should never be something that we accept.
question right here in the front. Oh. And then we'll go.
Okay. Kasim Latipo with Soccer in the Streets. Katie, thanks again for your work, and good to see you again. When you all at the Metro Chamber think about economic development, you also include how that affects our education and even specifically youth development. How are you all thinking about the World Cup and its implications, not only for when the World Cup is here, but afterwards?
Yeah, great question. Here, we'll do the microphone shuffle. It's really important that we engage youth through this opportunity, right? So obviously you're going to have corporations and companies and consulates and country pride, but how do we really engage with our youth to let them understand that the world is such a wide open space? And I think that's part of the storytelling that needs to go on when we have the global community here, is translating that back to the youth. I would like to say that I forgot to give a shout out to Soccer in the Streets. They're a partner. Sanjay is here somewhere. I saw him. They are a partner in World Cup with us. There are new, for instance, they have a new, I believe, Soccer in the Streets at Hamilton, Hamilton Homes. Yeah. A soccer pitch that just opened. They are also, it's coming. Sorry, I'm trying to get ahead of it. Which is a great way to invest in communities that don't typically have assets, access to the assets. So we're very, very proud of the partnership with you all. Arthur Blank has committed to building 100 soccer pitches across the state of Georgia by the end of 2026. But what I'm really, so obviously that's the love of the game. It's also an easily accessible game, right? You just need a ball. And even that can be tape, right? Like it's a pretty accessible game. But what I'd love is for us to open the eyes to the youth in our community that we are a global economy and that we're a global community. And so I think there's great opportunity there. One thing I'd like to kind of pivot from in youth for me is K through 12. But thinking about the talent in the institutions that we have here, I know John is here and is at Georgia Tech. We have premier research and R&D research facilities at our universities here. We have 3 R1 universities right here in the Metro Atlanta region. And if you're a company coming, there's 2 things you generally look for. And that's your labor force, which, by the way, have incredible statistics on the talent that exists in this region, thanks to the over 60 universities and technical schools that we have here. But 2, the partnerships with those higher education institutions to help them further things like leadership, executive leadership training, research and development for the companies, innovation, those types of things. And the students here will benefit from that. And we love to tell the story of the talent that exists in this region thanks to our higher education. And it's one of the 3 pillars when we talk to companies about investing here is, let me tell you about the talent that we produce and the talent that's already here. It's incredible. And so I do believe World Cup can help us elevate that on the international stage.
Speaking of universities, I saw Dean Phillips of Robinson College of Business at Georgia State University with his hand up, so we'll go to him next.
Morning. Thanks,
Another
Rickey.
R1 university.
Yes. Good morning, Katie. I just want to echo what was said earlier. You mentioned the word storytelling a couple of times. I think one of the stories that you can tell was related to the earlier question is about the Atlanta Way. And as a way forward, the city is prosperous in part because it embraced that in the 60s and 70s, as you mentioned earlier, and maybe there's a story there to tell. My question relates to remembering the 96 Olympics and all of the homes at that time which were rented out to visitors. That was way before VRBO or Airbnb. And so I'm curious what you're thinking about will happen in the city this time with respect to lodging, if you like, outside of the hotel industry specifically.
Yeah, it's a great question. I actually get this one a lot because I think a lot of people that were here in the Olympics remember, putting their house up for rent. I need to back up for a moment because since the Olympics, if you think about what we call the sports campus, we have 11,000 hotel rooms within a mile. And so that's an extraordinary asset. And if you go up more than a mile out, we just have more hotel rooms, quite honestly, than any other host city within easy access. So setting that aside, I think the estimate is somewhere between 6,000 and 6,500 homes will be rented during World Cup. And my advice is now that we have the technology platforms, most people are using VRBO, Airbnb to make those reservations. There is no, unlike the Atlanta Olympics where there was a lot of concierge service to match to homes, that is now those technology platforms. So we, the host committee, are not actively engaged in that. But my advice is if you'd like to rent out your home, which I told my husband I would, but then I have to be here, so where am I going to go? You really need to use the technology platforms that exist that globally people are aware of. So,
Question here. Right behind you, there's a microphone.
My name is Victor Mbaba. I'm the President and CEO of ACF of Metro Atlanta. We know that putting this kind of event could be very overwhelming. And we want to do this event, and at the end, everybody benefits. I'm thinking about the homeless population, or those who will be at the verge of being homeless. In what ways are the leadership preparing this event so that persons that I've just described can also benefit? For instance, for the last 26 years, our organization has been providing rapid rehousing, transitional housing, rental, and utility assistance for persons right here in Metro Atlanta. And when we heard that the game was coming and we knew the impact or the plight of homeless population here, or also persons who are affected by sex and human trafficking, we have a 24-acre facility near the airport with a building and a large land that we are turning into urban farming, renovating the house for transitional housing so that we can help this kind of population. I may have said so much, but I wanted to hear what
I think you've raised a very credible question. I think the challenge, and we aren't the only city, I think every major urban city, and quite honestly, even rural America is dealing with a housing affordability issue, an increase in our homeless population. So we are not immune to that here. I know that we have been working pretty diligently, and when I say we, I mean the Metro Atlanta Chamber, the business community have been working pretty diligently with the mayor's office on a number of initiatives, and I'll just highlight a few. One is the raising awareness and money for the Atlanta Rising campaign that Partners for Home is initiating. That's about a $200 million plus commitment, and that is to support permanent and supportive housing. The goal was to get 500 units by the end of 2025. I don't think quite reached that, but they're on the way. The challenge that exists there, and by the way, I need to give the city some credit too. They issued $60 million and a homeless bond to help with housing and providing services to our homeless or unhoused community. So I have to give them credit for stepping up as well. But this is a challenge in that homelessness is not static. It is a dynamic situation. So you can move people out and move them into the supportive, rapid rehousing, move them into permanent. And the unfortunate reality is we have people moving right back in to that spot. And that's a little bit where we have to lead with empathy and compassion. But we also have to remind ourselves that this is not, in Katie's word, a dignified way for our neighbors to live. And so we have to find those solutions. I will say that I believe that Atlanta is prepared. They are working very hard to get as many of our unhoused, specifically in downtown, but they're looking citywide, and then of course there's regional partners, to get as many in supportive transitional permanent housing before the Olympics. There's even an initiative to build these tiny home isn't the right thing. It's called a pallet home. That sounds, but they're just small, little, easy housing units where someone can lock up their belongings, feel very secure, and also receive wraparound housing. So there's a lot of initiatives that are being pushed forward, but I think it behooves us to recognize that it's a dynamic system. And until we work on and resolve housing affordability at all rates and the mental health crisis that we have, it's going to be a challenge for all cities. But what we need to do is lead with empathy and make sure that what we call our neighbors on the street have an opportunity to access the resources. My one last point here is there are those that are unhoused that do not want to accept help. And I think that's the biggest challenge that we have is what do you do when someone is unwilling to accept help? over and over again. How do we rectify that when they may be breaking laws in the meantime? So anyway, it's a challenging time. I appreciate what your organization is doing. We need all kinds of community partners. My one last comment is we actually need more people that are invested in the infrastructure around our homeless and less about handing out sandwiches. That can be done in a very straightforward way, but it actually, some of it is termed toxic charity and can not be proactive. So, sorry for the long-winded answer. And don't forget, we have this young woman over here, too. Dexter.
This is a follow-up to the question you just asked. Are we
Dexter, tell everybody who you are.
I'm sorry. We're short on time. It doesn't matter who I am.
Dexter Warrior.
All right. So quick question. Do you know if we're trying to tap into the $50 million grant around homelessness that the state of Georgia has set up?
It's a great question because that hasn't been funded yet. That's in the budget. So you have to get it passed first. But yes, it's actually, it's an incredible step forward for the state to make that type of investment in the homeless community across the state. So once that is put into place and is approved, I can guarantee you the city of Atlanta will do its best to tap into that, and we'll be helping that conversation with the state as well. But remember, Dexter, they got to go through the process and approve the budget first.
Any city council people here?
Well, it's actually state. This is a
Oh, a
state.
state.
The state, Governor Kemp put $50 million in what I call the little budget, the supplemental budget for homeless. And it's a grant type program that cities can use.
So we'll know by the end of March. if it
You
comes
should
through.
know before that because
The budget will pass,
The
yeah.
supplemental budget and then, big budget, the FY27 budget comes after that. Sorry for the politics lesson.
Hi, good morning. Katie, first of all, thank you so much for showing your compassion and humanity with some of these really tough questions. It is indeed a tough time, and just leadership showing up like you did this morning was an example for us all. Mary Ann Filoni with Bold Impact ATL. We exist to convene cross-sector leaders and turn moments like the World Cup into measurable community-rooted impact. My question for you is, with the tremendous amount of residents, visitors, tourists, players, teams, et cetera, coming to our city over the next several months, with that opportunity also comes a lot of waste. How is Metro Atlanta and others, how are you looking at sustainability efforts to drive us economically and to leave a lasting legacy so that when people look at Atlanta, they think, wow, this is where I want to be, because we know it's not only here to survive, it's here to thrive.
You may not know, but my background, I'm an environmental engineer. So long ago. Although I do keep my license, professional engineer's license current in case I'm ever unemployed. I can go that way. It's a great question, and actually one that we can put into the remit when we bid for the World Cup. If you look at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, which will be known as Atlanta Stadium during the World Cup, we will always refer to it MBS. They are at LEED Platinum, and they were the first stadium, I believe, that reached that designation. And so they have an incredible infrastructure built just in the stadium itself to make sure that we have a zero, I don't want to say carbon, but a zero impact on the environment, right? State Farm Arena also, I don't think they're LEED Platinum, but they have a LEED designation as well. And then I do believe through the host committee, at least in the areas that they can control, right? So think about FanFest, Georgia World Congress Center, those types of things. They all have sustainability programs that are in place today, will be there for the World Cup, will exist far beyond that. I actually I'm glad you asked the question because we're going to have a news bureau. I see Zach over there. Or a online media portal where we can storytell to my J. Mac Robinson, Dean over there, where we can actually highlight the stories that tell the ethos of Atlanta, everything from the civil rights movement to the Atlanta Way to our growing economy to our sustainability story. We can't overlook the Better Buildings Challenge that was done a long time ago so that our buildings are more efficient. We have companies like Honeywell that are here in Siemens that are doing incredible things in this space. So That's how we're going to have to tell the story. We're going to have to do and then tell. And I do believe it is part of the planning process. Now, I can't speak for, the rest of the region and how they will do it. And if you think about Decatur as having a festival the entire time, we do not integrate when individuals or unique institutions do events. We're focused on the actual event itself. Hope that helps.
Thank you all for your wonderful questions. We have time for just one more in the corner right there.
Oh, I can't see it behind the pole.
Final question.
No pressure. Yeah, I'm going to get out from behind the pole. Katie, yeah, I wanted to thank you for all the information that you've provided, and I'm sure it's a heavy task that you bear to provide us all with all this information. I wanted to bring it back to what you talked about in terms of transportation and, oh, by the way, I'm Gail Gorvet. I'm a CEO and managing partner of G. Gorvet Consulting. I'm an international corporate lawyer, and I've lived in France and Japan before moving to Atlanta. And so the point that I want to ask you about comes from my living in other countries that were focused a lot on public transportation and walkability, and the fact that I know that the people coming here will be used to that. And you mentioned people being on foot and people taking MARTA and the communication at the airport. And I just want to ask more on a more practical basis, how are we doing that? And what kinds of support are we providing to the people visiting from these countries who oftentimes won't speak English? And also, at the airport, getting to Uber, getting to Lyft.
You've heard my complaints.
Such a challenge. Is that part of the communication effort? Because visitors to Atlanta,
Bless their hearts.
Yeah, exactly.
Just remember, we have the world's busiest and most efficient airport with a plane train that moves more people than, I think, it's like the 5th largest transit system in the United States is the Atlanta-Hartsville plane train, which is crazy. I understand your question. Look, I think the Metro Atlanta Chamber has been pretty out front to say that our mass transit system is not where it should be. At this point in time, we've been very public about our calls for improvement in MARTA. And so what we have to work with right now is the institutions and the organizations that ensure people get to where they belong. And so there is integration between the airport, MARTA, the the Atlanta Police Department, MPD, which is the MARTA Police Department, ACVB and others, thinking about wayfinding. I did not speak to wayfinding. Part of the $120 million infrastructure package that the city is investing in downtown includes new wayfinding. I believe there's 120 new wayfinding digital signs going in. There will be, you will not be shocked when I say this, we still had wayfinding in downtown from the '96 Olympics. And so that all is coming down and new wayfinding is going in for that foot traffic. I do know with MARTA and the airport, there is a lot of conversation, as well as our security teams, about translation services and how to communicate. And I'm not going to remember the actual name, but there is a booklet that they will all have that has pictures and other things. So if it's not one of the predominant languages of Spanish, French, Portuguese, on and on and on, you can communicate using symbols and pictures, and that may actually help the communication side of things. The large amount of visitors will have some functionality in English, so there is preparation, though, to handle the language differences. I can't speak to Uber and the taxis. I have had conversations about that personally, but it's one of those opportunities where we can certainly improve. But there's a lot going on with the airport, and I will again put our airport up against anyone else and moving anyone. And then there's great coordination between MARTA, the airport, the sports complex, et cetera, to make sure that we have, forgive me, I can talk about this all day long, that we have the right headways, that we have the right size trains, that it's all scheduled at the right time so that when a match is letting out, that we can move people efficiently, not only through mass transit and on foot, but that our traffic signals are synchronized to let traffic move out. That's where GDOT is playing a big role. So there's a lot of planning going on, and I appreciate the question. I'm hoping that we show the world that we can do it with our assets that we have today.
Thank you so much for such great questions. And I have the final question. So when we all tell our grandkids about the wonderful World Cup that we hosted, our generation's Olympics, what will success have looked like?
It's a great question because we more than likely will have another World Cup here in 2031, Women's World Cup. So we're in the bid process for that one. So that goes along with the announcement of the new women's soccer team that will start in 28. So it's a great time to be a soccer fan. You know, I think about it from my children. I have a 22 and a 19-year-old, both boys, who did not play soccer growing up. But they are intrigued by this global event and how is it going to impact them from a job perspective? And then will they be sitting here one day on the stage like I was, you know, having experienced the Olympics and looking back over the 30 years, let's say, because this is a generational event. Let me tell you this, the Men's World Cup will not be back for probably another generation, more than likely, just the way it rotates around the world. And so I'm hoping we look back and we talk about that the world understood who Atlanta was, who we are, who we will be, that we're authentic in nature. We love to talk about what's good, but we also recognize the challenges that we have before us, like our housing and unhoused population, transit, some of these other things, that we actually made investments in those initiatives, and we actually saw an improvement and growth coming out of that, that we increased opportunity here for the 2+ million people that are projected to come here, that we have more foreign direct investment, plus United States, U.S. companies headquartering here and creating jobs, and that we look back and we're like, wow, one, Atlanta is still true to itself, but two, that we continue to foster this welcoming and diverse climate that is here. So I hope it's a really positive experience and that people will carry that forward for the next 30 years. I know I will, and hopefully I will still be here when the next Men's World Cup comes. So
Katie
I definitely will be
Kirkpatrick.
here for Women's World Cup.
Please join me in thanking Katie Kirkpatrick of the Metro Atlanta Chamber. So as we wrap up this morning, let's also recognize all of you in the room here. The World Cup's impact will not just be determined by the people behind the scenes or any one organization or one sector. It will be all of us to make it a positive experience and success and to tell our city's story. It will be shaped by collaboration, relationships represented right here at these tables, by conversations over breakfast, and of course by the choices we make together in the months and years ahead. So thanks to all of you for being here. We have more gratitude to offer. Please join me in thanking our World Affairs Council of Atlanta team, Jackie Davis, Harshit Jain, Parshit Jaden, Jared Lenton, and Jaden Gambrell. Round of applause, please, and Elena Fernandez. You will not want to miss the next in our speaker series presented by Bank of America. We are bringing to Atlanta one of the world's women's soccer icons, Kelly O'Hara, who grew up in Peachtree City. She has traveled the world, won 2 World Cups, Olympic gold, and she is going to be right here with the World Affairs Council of Atlanta at Mercedes-Benz Stadium on Friday, March 6th, celebrating International Women's Day. There is a QR code in your program. It's the purple inside your program for you to register. If you'd like sponsorship opportunities, please speak to me or Jackie Davis. Jackie, you want to raise your hand? Wave. There's Jackie. And we would just love to see you. It's going to be a great opportunity. Also, if you're interested, you know, Mercedes-Benz has to seed. They have turf, but they have to seed actual grass for the World Cup. So that transition is going to be going on. So we'll be able to see that from the event venue. We can't be on the field because it's going to be growing, but the grass has to grow in time for June. So
Actually has to grow in time for the friendlies.
for the friendlies,
So
which
it's
are when?
actually, yeah, so they actually will roll it in.
But they're going to be watering it.
Oh, yes.
I was promised a show.
Oh, yes, no. And they'll have lots on standby, too. It's, anyway.
The care
it's
and
part
feeding
of
of grass.
It's part of the requirement by FIFA.
Not just Lionel Messi, who doesn't like to play on turf. So please join us on March 6th for our International Women's Day celebration. There's also a survey. We really do deeply care about your feedback of our events. This is one of the many events that we host throughout the year at the World Affairs Council, and we love to hear your feedback on what you liked and what we can do better. And of course, please subscribe to our newsletter on our website at wacatlanta.org. Please join me again in thanking Bank of America for making this morning possible for all of us. And we look forward to seeing you on March 6th. Thanks for coming.